I'd like to explain to you some of the ways that you can actually use this very powerful mental video technique in order to solve problems, enhance your life, get answers to questions you might have. There's a million ways you can use it. And once you get in the habit of using it every night when you go to sleep, when you're going to sleep, when you get into bed, you'll love it because it makes going to bed really exciting because you could get so much done. And here's some examples. One of the more famous Silva students was a man named Richard Bach, who came out with a book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I remember I was giving a seminar out in Seattle, Washington to a group of people, and a man who had been his roommate in college was in my class with his 10-year-old son. The 10-year-old son was amazingly psychic and tuned in. But this man was telling me how, yes, he met Richard Bach in college, and he knew that, he didn't have a lot of money. He was kind of like trying to figure out things. But this seagull came to visit him. And after he took the Silva training, the seagull came back and finished the story, which became Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And that book alone made Richard Bach enough money to live for the rest of his life comfortably. It was turned into a movie, but he went on to write a few other books. But he's one example. There have been many, many people who took the Silva training. Wayne Dyer was a college professor, got the Silva training, and after that he became an author, a motivational speaker, and his whole life changed dramatically. Because once you find your purpose, that means you've communicated with your higher self and you get the guidance that you need in order to find out what you really came here to do. Things start to happen. You'll find that there'll be a lot of coincidences that start happening in your life. You'll meet the right people very accidentally. You'll be guided to, buy a certain book or just all kinds of amazing things because you start to get that guidance in order to accomplish what you came here to do. Silva's philosophy was that we came here to help planet Earth. And look at all the people now that are saying, you signed up to be here at this time during the Great Awakening. You made that choice. They sent out a call in the universe. We need people to go to planet Earth for the Great Awakening, for the transition that it's going to go through, because there'll be a lot of changes, a lot of upheaval, a lot of getting rid of the old and bringing in the new. And in order to make that happen, we need people that can be instrumental in bringing in the new world, basically, because things are changing, and they're changing dramatically. I know years ago when I was giving the seminars, I started giving them, I said in 2004, I used to tell people, one of the things that will happen is everything will be transparent. You won't be able to hide information about yourself. And this will cause some people to kind of go off the deep end because they won't know where to hide if they're doing things that they don't want people to know about. And we're seeing a lot of that now. Not that privacy isn't a good thing. I'm all for it, but we kind of can't escape this new way of the computers knowing everything about us, whether we like it or not. So we're seeing a lot of changes, but you can use this mental video technique when you go to bed at night. Let's say you want to change careers, but you really don't know what you're supposed to be doing. I've had people come to my class. It's a 2-day seminar, and the first night they go to bed and they ask their higher self, what is my purpose? Some of them are amazed that once they get up and they start to take a shower many times, because water is very conducive to having us shift our thought. It's a conductor. They will all of a sudden get an idea. One fellow, I remember, he was from India, and he knew that he knew a lot of things about computers that the average person didn't know. So he figured out he could put that information out there in a book and sell it. And he wanted to start a school in India for young people where he was from. I've seen other people all of a sudden change careers, realize that what they were doing didn't serve them. They weren't really happy doing it. So they would decide to really live their passion and let whatever it was that they didn't enjoy anymore go. And then it would make room for the new things to open up. And as you're using the mental video technique every night, you can take a segment. You can take it segment by segment. One woman who was in my class had to sell a business, and it was a rather complicated situation. But she had had Silva training from before, and she said she would do a mental video for every single step that she had to go through. She had to get, permission from the town and talk to realtors and talk to investors. It was very complicated. But she said by the time she finished, it made her husband a believer that what she did by going down to that alpha level and using the mental video technique was definitely very effective, because he hadn't really been interested in it and he could see the results. I've had people come to my classes and all of a sudden have a spontaneous healing, something that was bothering them, and I get the emails later on. I went back to the doctor and it was gone, whatever the condition was. Or young people who are trying to take tests in school without getting anxiety attacks find that if they learn how to go to the alpha level of consciousness and relax when they're doing it, they get much better results. I had people come back to my seminars that had gotten this training in their teens, and they said after that they got all A's, went to college, got a great job, and they were back because they just wanted a refresher of, they realized it was a very life-changing thing to be able to learn how to go within. What we're doing is we're going into our subjective consciousness. And when you're in your subjective consciousness, which is where your imagination, your intuition, your insights, your revelations, all the good stuff resides, then you get a much richer, more interesting life experience. You see, the left side of the brain is the analytical, the logic, and you need it in order to operate in the three-dimensional world. The right side of the brain, the right hemisphere, is where spiritual sense, intuition, psychic ability, all the good stuff is. But we tend not to be right brain thinkers because it's programmed out of us in the schools and the programming that we get in our culture. So in order to become intuitive right brain thinkers, you need to learn some techniques. The mental video technique is an excellent way to activate the right side of the brain. And once you get into the habit of just going naturally into the alpha level of consciousness, no matter what you're doing, if you're driving your car, you relax more. If you're planning to meet someone, you're more relaxed. You learn to go to the alpha level to let things flow more easily. If you need to make more money, we're living in a time where a lot of people have lost their jobs. But if you begin to learn how to relax, go within, and be more creative about your thinking and look for solutions rather than problems, you'll find that the solutions will pop into your consciousness. I like to tell a story about how years ago I was living in Boston. I'd bought this condo right on Dartmouth and Newbury Street, and we were facing a huge, huge pilot strike, and it was almost inevitable. In fact, I even had a dream that it was imminent. I saw the pilots fighting with the company, and it wasn't good. So I prepared myself. But I was very stressed out because initially I thought, how can I possibly pay my bills if I'm not working? And then one night, as I was wrestling with this, trying to figure out the solution, it popped into my head that I had equity in my condominium. It had gone up in value, even though I'd only owned it for a year. So I went out and got an equity line of credit, cruised through the strike with, my backup plan in place, no problem. And even though other people were caught in a terrible state, wondering how they were going to even get through the next month, I was at peace. I'd gotten the solution. Now, I have to say, I was wrestling with it, having a few sleepless nights before the solution popped into my consciousness. And when it came in, it was almost like a miracle. It was like, wow, that's a good one. Why didn't I think of that before? So you see, what I'm trying to tell you is there's always a solution, but it's your higher self when you're relaxed, many times when you're sleeping, that can bring you the solution. That's how a lot of people have gotten great inventions in their dreams. You know, that it happens where you'll be struggling to figure out how to solve a problem, and then you have this amazing dream that teaches you something you need to know, and problem solved. Getting down into the alpha theta level of consciousness is more accurate, more effective, more of a problem solving way to think than being at the beta level of consciousness. And they've proven this. People who are natural alpha thinkers are more creative, more successful, happier. They live in the flow because they know that there's always a solution. And once you start to really accept that as your reality, you can't get stressed out anymore.